Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we're back on a Monday afternoon breaking down USC's 26-21 win over Iowa in a rainy Coliseum game. 16 unanswered points for the Trojans in the second half. How are you feeling 48 hours after this one?
Yeah, what a game. I mean, that was so much fun to watch. I actually stayed and watched the entire game on the field in person. That atmosphere with the weather and the rain, and the Coliseum wasn't quite packed, but the fans that were there and that showed up with all the ponchos. And I don't know if you saw the section, the guys with their shirts off, swinging the towels. It was a cool atmosphere, man. I wish it was a little more filled out, but it really felt like a home college football playoff game because of the implications that game had. I was so proud of this football team. You got to give credit to Iowa, though. They came out swinging and they were ready to go. That long trip to the West Coast, they didn't start slow. That was the worst possible start that you could have asked for USC. To get down 2 scores early to that type of football team that likes to play with the lead is not the recipe for success. But either way, USC still overcame that. They found a way to fight their tails off and get back in this game. I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. That's a great game. And you look back at that and there's a lot of positives that we can take from that. And the ceiling for this football team is very high. But at the end of the day, those type of wins, those need to become the standard here at USC. And they're starting to become the standard here at USC under Lincoln Riley. So I'm excited to celebrate for 24 hours. It's now actually 48 hours. So I celebrated a little bit longer, and I'll explain why in a second. But either way, those are the games that USC needs to prove that they can win, and they continue to do that, whether it's on the road or at home. But we got a big one this week against Oregon, so we got to keep that momentum going.
And I know we're going to dive into it specifically, Cody, but you mentioned Coach Riley said it was a culture win, if anything. And based on our preview, if you had to script what would be the best case scenario for Iowa to win that game in that first half, or at least to have the first half go that way, it would be exactly what happened. So to go into the locker room and come back and have that fight and belief, I think it just shows the learning how to win culture that Coach Riley talks about a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's, credit to Iowa. They came out in that game. Their offensive coordinator, Lester, came out and all week long. Keely, you and I talked about it. So I know that Dan Lynn and that coaching staff talked about it, but they said, hey, this team's going to come out and try to overpower us and run the football. What they do on that opening drive? Pass, explosive pass. They get to fourth and short, and then they throw it again. It's just uncharacteristic of what they did. But USC obviously had to figure out what their game plan was. They got it figured out early. The offense started slow, but once they started working together, they started playing complementary football, especially in the second half. And for them to come back and fight back and win the way they did means more to me. And I think it's more important than just coming out and dominating that game and winning by 3 scores. That
Yeah.
to me helps build the culture, like you mentioned, and like Coach Riley's been preaching, more so than those easy wins. And the other thing, too, if you want to say the most, unideal start for USC, have it raining like it was for
Exactly.
90% of that game. So, yeah, there was everything against USC. Obviously, it was at home, so that was a big factor in that. That helped a ton. But everything else, especially how USC started, went against them, but they still found a way to overcome the adversity and get the win at home.
Alrighty, Cody, I'm excited to dive into it. Before we do, just a couple reminders. Be sure to subscribe where you get your podcast. You can also watch the video version of this show on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. Be sure to follow us on our socials, Victory Pod USC. That's where you can ask questions for our preview episodes that we record on Wednesday. So look out on Monday or Tuesday, depending on when we record the show, which leads me to my next point, which you can also get schedule updates via our social. Like I said, we are actually recording on a Monday afternoon. Mr. Superstar Cody is back from his show earlier this morning, and he had to go and be a superstar talent. So we had to shift the show a little bit on Monday.
Yeah, fortunately, this other show I've been doing has been really cool. And a huge part of me getting to do this show is the support from you guys and helping this podcast and this channel grow. But yeah, we had a scheduling conflict with my other show. Normally we record at 11:30 on Mondays for the live episodes, but because of weather, we had been dealing with some connection issues. So we had to pre-record at 9 a.m. all the way in Woodland Hills. So instead of recording the Victory podcast last night like we planned to, I had to hop in the car, drive down there, sleep in a hotel, wake up, do that show, and then come back. But either way, we're here now. We're still talking this game. It was so exciting that we're taking the 24-hour rule. We're making it the 48-hour rule. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened in this game, but also get a tiny bit of a jump start on Oregon and some things that we can work on going into this game. Because remember, Oregon and Iowa just played the week before, so we have some film to go off of there. But yeah, that one's on me. I apologize. We had it planned and everything, and then the schedule changed with my Arena Gridiron show. But we're getting it done now. No excuses. That's the way this team's been. That's the way we're going to be on the podcast.
Well, I would have loved to podcast on Sunday. I did get to get laundry done, Cody. So thank you. Thanks to the Arena
Hey,
Gridiron,
team.
laundry
I'm
is
a team
done.
player. Team
You
player.
are
I knew you had to catch up on some household stuff, so
exactly.
wanted to make
It's
sure you could.
November and football season. That's the
Hey,
type of
hold
fun
on.
things. Yes. What's
Hold
up?
on real quick before we move on. If you haven't, please go check it out somehow. Calling me a superstar, you coming with your bougie jacket and the
Oh my
fur
gosh.
and the rain and did you see the photos and the clips and everything
No.
that
What do
from
you
that?
mean?
Oh, I think so. Go back and watch the YouTube episode. I'll say this. Well, we have a live section on USC Athletics YouTube page of the Trojan tailgate show from Saturday. Keely Eure here was big timing us with the now. She was a warrior out in the rain. I got to give you credit in the pregame, but she had the North Face and the fur, and hey, you
Okay.
can't hide
Here's
money.
the
You know,
thing.
she's big time. All
Please
that.
don't
You
even.
know,
Here's the thing. I have worn that jacket multiple times and you guys have not said anything. But for some
I
reason, maybe because you guys
I
were all
haven't seen it.
smushed in that press box, you were just like, let's target Keely. But no, I have worn that. I have had it for like 3 years. You guys are just wanted to pick on me that day, but it's fine. I can dish it
Hey,
back. It's all good.
I I know, I can't. You know what? I take everything I just said back. We're sitting there bundled up in our warm little booth, and
I'm
you're
just
down there
there
facing the elements. I know.
boring.
It was cool. It was cool though. Like we watched the game down on the floor. We get to watch it from the field. I normally, leave about halftime to get home, but I had some buddies that came to the game, so we're watching on the field. It's cool, man. The atmosphere. I know it wasn't packed, but just all the ponchos and the people that were there were loud and engaged. And
Yeah.
imagine if we can do that week in and week out. I know Coach Riley's been asking everybody to do that, but regardless of what's happening, if we can start packing that out and building that atmosphere every single week, that becomes a real factor in those Big Ten conference games.
For sure. Well, let's dive into it, Cody. I want to talk about USC's offensive performance. And we always start with the quarterback, and how could you not with this game? I felt like USC came out of the second half and was like, you know what, we're gonna go with our strengths. We're gonna beat you with our playmakers on the perimeter. What did you see from Jayden Maiava and the way he was able to thread the needle in that sense?
Yeah, what a game by 14. I mean, in those conditions, to be down 2 scores early, to never panic. That's the one thing I look at a quarterback when things don't go right early on. And especially being on the field, I was a little bit closer and I could see him when he came on and off the field. I want to see how your body language is. I want to see how your demeanor is. I want to see if you're still calm, cool, and collected, or you get a little tight and you're tense. He never blinked. He really didn't. He just kept making big time throw after big time throw, even when we're down early. It was really impressive. I love how calm he stays no matter what's going on around him. And as a playmaker on that team, as a defense, as an offensive lineman, other guys on that team, if I look at my quarterback and he's got that type of mindset and that type of mentality, I know I can win a lot of games with that guy, even when things aren't going our way. But when you go back and watch the plays that he made on those 3 drives, both with his arm and his legs, it was really the difference maker in this football game. That opening drive out of halftime, he made some unreal throws to Jacoby and Makai. Had to settle for 3, which isn't ideal after the big explosive plays we had to get down to the red zone. But when you're playing a team like Iowa, who doesn't put up a ton of points, and I mentioned this on the preview episode, Keely, 3 points sometimes are just as important as 6.
Yeah.
Where it becomes an issue is when you maybe go for it on fourth and you leave with nothing, because
Yeah.
then you give them the ball right back. They have a longer field, which they want. They want to have those 12 plays,
Yeah.
80-yard drives and take 7 or 8 minutes off the clock. So for us to still finish with 3 down there, that was huge. That was a big opening drive to start the second half. Then the next drive, he made 3 huge throws on that drive. The first one was a deep throw over the middle to Makai Lemon, who I don't know how he makes some of those catches. It's even more impressive in person. I need to start staying for some of those games and
It's
staying down on the
unreal.
field.
It's
Just
unreal.
the amount, and I'll talk about him in a second, but the amount of contested catches that man makes and the level of difficulty that some of those catches are, and he makes it look effortless. He makes it look like it's just a random day at practice where I'm just going to snatch it out of the air while I have a guy draped all over me and I'm running full speed and I can't even see the ball, and then in that weather and everything, it's just so impressive. But what I love about that connection right now is Jayden Maiava knows how to throw him open, and he knows how to throw him some of those contested catches. And he knows for some guys that might be covered, but for 6, that's open, and I can still get him the football. So that was a great catch on there. Perfect throw. You could argue an even better catch, but I don't know who to give the credit to there. That was just 2 guys making a big time play. And then another big play or a big throw on that drive was 3rd and 7. Jacoby Lane's running a crossing route going from left to right. The play's dead. No one's open. The initial read wasn't there, but then you just see 2 guys playing football and being playmakers. Jacoby Lane ends up running that crosser. It's not there, so he turns it and goes upfield. Now the linebacker has the back of his head to Jayden Maiava. And when I'm a quarterback, although he may be covered and have a guy on him, but if his eyes aren't on me and they're on the receiver, I can throw it right off of his helmet. And that's exactly what he did. to a 6'4" Jacoby Lane. And that was just a heck of a job by two guys making a big time play to keep that drive alive. And then one play later, he throws that touchdown to Makai Lemon on the deep crossing route. Had a guy in his arm, got an and one. It was close. I don't, whatever you want to call it. The kid just makes plays over and over. But to go Makai, Jacoby, Makai, just get the ball to your playmakers in those crunch time situations. That's the recipe for success. That was awesome to see. And then that final drive that took the lead for USC. Not a ton of throws for Maiava. We got the interception, so it helped us have a short field, but he did complete a 3rd and 1 to Lake McCree on the sideline. Great catch by Lake to keep the drive alive. And then Brian Jackson scores on the Wildcat after that, and USC takes the lead and never looks back. That was just awesome to see. But the most important thing for me in this game from Jayden Maiava was the fact that he had 0 turnovers. I talked about on the pregame show. I really believe that this game is going to come down to which quarterback protects the football. And Jayden Maiava protected the football, and Gronowski, although it was kind of a weird type play. Marcellus Williams tipped it, or I don't know if he tipped it, the receiver. It bounced off and went right to Jakeem Stewart, who was hustling and in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But he made the crucial mistake, and USC didn't. Jayden Maiava had great ball security. He had great decision making all game long, and that is a huge reason why USC won that game, because he protected the football. Iowa turned it over. USC didn't. Now, he's not going to jump off the stat sheet with his numbers in this game. It's not going to be one of those days where he's 28 of 30 for 380 and 3 or 4 touchdowns. But regardless of the stats, to me and that environment and what this game meant, I think that was Jayden Maiava's best performance of the year so far.
And I feel like it was a sign of ultimate growth in the areas that we needed to see from Maiava from last year. I mean, you talk about a big game, basically playing a playoff game, as you guys talked about in the pregame show, not being flustered, not being a perfectionist, taking care of the ball, threading the needle, accuracy. Like, I felt like this was Jayden Maiava taking the next step in this game.
Yeah, 100%. You said it perfectly. It's can you do I hate to say boring, but that's what it is. Can you do the simple, boring things over and over? And he started doing it in the Northwestern game. That opening drive. I mean, he goes 9 for 11 on the opening drive for 67 yards and a touchdown. It wasn't shot after shot. It was an underneath route, a crosser, a check down, a short throw. In this game, take the shots when they're there. But when they're not there, I'll use my legs and also just take a profit and find a crosser underneath and get the ball to Lake McCree on the sideline and throw an out route on 3rd and 1 to keep the drive alive. We're watching him in real time become a high level college quarterback, but also become an NFL quarterback too. And that's what you need to do at the next level. I know it's cliche and it's get your bingo cards out, but it is what I always say, Keely, about knowing when to be Superman and make the big time play, knowing when to be Clark Kent and put the glasses on and take the cape off and just throw a check down. That is so important. If I want my quarterback to excel at the next level, when I talk to some of these young guys out there and tell them what they need to work on as they get ready for the next level, yes, it's mechanics and footwork and arm talent and working out in the weight room and all those things. But the most important thing is what's between the ears. How well do you analyze, the position? How well can you play in real time with bullets flying and still make the correct decision every time? And that's exactly what we saw from Jayden Maiava. And it's just been really cool to see from where he was the last year in those 4 starts to where he's at this year, having his team in contention for the playoffs with 2 to go. It's been awesome. A big part of our success has been because of 14.
Well, as I mentioned, we're recording this on a Monday afternoon, and in Monday morning's press release, it always comes out all the stuff of the honors from the weekend. One of them being Makai Lemon was named a semifinalist for the Bolitnikoff Award. He's one of 13 semifinalists. I'm biased, but I think that should go to him. He went over 1,000 yards on the season against Iowa. Cody, I know you already dipped into it a little bit, but what did you see from 6?
Yeah, I love the different ways that Coach Riley used Makai Lemon in this game. He put him in so many different positions to create one-on-one opportunities, because when you start playing in these games like Notre Dame, like Nebraska, even Northwestern, they're going to try to find ways to take him out of the game plan. And you can see in that game, they were playing man-to-man. The safety wasn't playing cover 1 over the middle of the field. He was playing over number 6. Wherever Makai Lemon was at, he's going to play over the top of him. But what Coach Riley did was he put him outside. He put him inside. He put him on the left. He put him on the right. We got an 11 personnel, and we put him in the backfield as a running back and then quick snapped it. So he ran a wheel. Even though he was a decoy on that play, it opened it up for other guys to make some big plays. When I broke down Iowa's film, I said they're a team that is so disciplined in man and in zone, and they don't fall for the bait. They don't take the cheese. They don't fall for some of these plays. But who's one of the best, if not the best, offensive minds in college football to find ways to get guys open? That's the guy on our sideline that always likes to wear a visor named Lincoln Riley, who can get people open regardless of what the defense is doing. We talk so much about this Iowa defense. I promise you, in their film room and probably their preview podcast, they talked a lot about Lincoln Riley. So it was a huge credit to him. It's been awesome to see the different ways that he has to constantly evolve this offense to get Makai Lemon going. But he really is. I mean, he is, in my opinion, a top two wide receiver in college football right now, and he's not number two. If you're following what I'm saying, he is the best wide receiver in the country. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State is a heck of a football player, and he's going to be a great talent in the NFL. And I wish so badly we played Ohio State, because it would be a treat for college football fans everywhere to watch those two not go head to head, because they won't be on the field at the same time, but go back and forth, because when four is not on the field, six is going to be on the field. And then when Makai is on the sideline, Smith's going to be on the field. So it'd be a lot of fun to watch, but huge credit to him. They're going back and forth, but I might be a little biased. I don't care. You can argue with the wall. I think Makai is the best wide receiver in the entire country. He can win versus man to man. He can create separation on short routes, on down the field throws. He can find the soft spots versus zone. He understands coverages and where the holes are in a defense. He has elite route running. He has elite body control. But the best thing that he does, and I said it already, early on in this episode, the best thing that he does is he consistently makes contested catches regardless of what the defense is doing or how much pressure is on him or what the DB is doing. That's so impressive to see, because I always say this, Keely, if you want to play in the next level, you got to win versus press man to man, and you've got to be able to make those tough catches, because the DBs are going to be in your hip pocket. Separation in the NFL is a lot different than separation in college and in high school. And Makai Lemon is showing you that he can get the job done regardless of what the defense is doing. So it's a lot of fun to watch. All I'm going to say is this about Makai Lemon to the Trojan fans out there. Just make sure, and I know we do, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just make sure you appreciate this man while we have him, because
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer that's going to be, and for good reason. He's earned it. He deserves a shot at the next level. But for however many games left, we get Makai Lemon. Just enjoy him, because he's special. I think when we look back on it, when it's all said and done, he's going to be up there with some of the greats, or at least in that conversation. So it's been really cool to watch him play. And then the next guy I want to talk about is the other wide receiver on this team that, in my opinion, is also one of the best in the country. And I'm not even going to call him the number two on this team. I had it written down as a 1-2 punch, but I'm going to call it a 1-1 punch, because if Makai Lemon's 1A, then Jacoby Lane is 1B. They complement each other so well. A big part of Makai Lemon's success is having a guy like Jacoby Lane who can also put stress and pressure on the opposing defense. I talk about it all the time in the NFL. Guys like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, when you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, when you have that 1-2 punch, I know they're struggling a little bit this year, but Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, when you have a great 1 and a 2, or a 1A and 1B, it allows both guys to go off in any given Saturday or Sunday and have an opportunity to make big time plays, because it's too difficult for a defense to take both guys out of the game plan. So I got to give a lot of credit to Jacoby Lane. If 6 isn't going to hurt you on the day, then I promise you 8 will. And I know we've made the joke about what their names are going to be, but still out there, if we got some merch ideas, please, my line is open. My DMs are open. Let me know. I think Lemon 8, whatever we're calling it. I know people have been making some references, but it's been so much fun to watch those guys play football this year. It's going to be a huge one this week, too. Make sure you guys tune in on Saturday against Oregon. We're going to need both those guys to be at their best. And then I also give credit to the tight end room and Chad Savage, what he's done with those guys this
Yeah.
year. We've been waiting for a couple years under Coach Riley for the tight ends to really have some success. And, it's tough. You don't want to just start force feeding them the football. And then when you have two guys that can make some plays, it gives Coach Riley a lot more options to utilize them in the offensive side of the ball. We've run a ton of 12 personnel this year, meaning one running back and two tight ends on the field with two wide receivers as well. So Walker Lyons and Lake McCree have been a great third option for Jayden Maiava, and has really added an extra element to this offense.
You mentioned that Oregon matchup, and I know we're going to wait till we record on Wednesday, but I feel like this season has been a stepping, like a ladder in that sense, where the passing defense that USC has been going against keeps escalating. This was a difficult scenario in the sense that you talked about how much you respect Iowa's defense, and then you add in the rain element. But now Oregon is the number one passing defense in the nation. What are you expecting for this matchup? And I know I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Cody.
No, let's do it. This is a college football playoff game again. Let's talk about Oregon. I can't wait. Yeah, it's just, I'm glad that the games have happened in the order that they have. Like you just mentioned, we played Nebraska, number 2 passing defense in the country at the time. Northwestern, number 13. Iowa, top 5. And now you play Oregon, who has the best passing defense in the country and arguably the best defense in the entire country. As good as Iowa was, In my opinion, Oregon is slightly better on the defensive side of the ball, but that's what you're battle tested for. That's why you play these games. We knew what we signed up for in the Big Ten. Obviously, Oregon followed us over from the Pac-12 as well as Washington and UCLA. So we got a little experience with them, but the way they've been playing football these last couple of years under Dan Lanning is different than the Oregon that we saw at Pac-12 in the Pac-12 for so many years. So I'm excited. It's a physical football team. Their defensive line is tough. Their linebackers play very well in space. They can come downhill and tackle, and their DBs do not give up a lot of big plays on the back end. It's going to take everybody on USC's offense in this football game, but that's exactly what you want. I'm excited for it. Again, this is another week to where I know we're giving a preview or recap, whatever the episode is, talking about another team, but at the same time, that team's also talking about us. And Dan Lanning and his coaching staff is in that film room right now, sweating, trying to figure out, how we're going to stop Jacoby Lane, how we're going to stop Makai Lemon, how we can, take King Miller out of the game plan, how we can stop these tight ends. So it's going to be another chess match between Lincoln Riley and Dan Lanning. I just cannot wait. But make sure you guys check out Wednesday too. We'll record Wednesday, should come out Thursday. That preview episode, we're going to dive deep into this Oregon football team and what USC needs to do to get the win on the road.
I'm excited for that one, as you can tell, since I'm already asking you questions about Oregon. But you mentioned battle tested, Cody, and I don't think anyone on USC's offense is more battle tested than its O-line. Again, I was talking about this on Trojans Live earlier this morning, and I said we kind of take for granted just how battle tested they are, in the sense that Elijah Page goes down and Tobias Raymond just goes, okay, I'm moving positions again. I mean, it's just crazy how much they've had to endure this season.
Yeah, I'm running out of ways to explain just how impressive this offensive line has been this entire year, and Coach Hansen as well is in that topic. Those guys have been a key piece of our success, not only as an offense, but as an entire team. Because I'd said at the beginning of the year, if you want to win games in the Big Ten, it starts in the trenches on both sides of the football. That is the attitude of your football team. And right now, the offensive line has been just, like I said, I'm running out of words. Amazing, awesome, just resilient,
Thesaurus.com.
impressive. Yeah, everything. I mean, every word you want to use to describe them, because it is. Because when you lose Wayman Jordan and you lose Eli Sanders, and now you have a and he's a great football player and it won't be for much longer, but to put into context the reality of it, a freshman walk on as your starting running back who is averaging 8 yards per carry, and USC has put up 160 yards rushing going into that game on Saturday per game, is extremely impressive. But you can't do that if you don't have guys up front at the offensive line and you don't have depth at that position. I mean, just looking at this game, we have another injury up front to our all everything left tackle. Elijah Page goes down in the first half, and you mentioned it without hesitation. I mean, it happened in the blink of an eye. Tobias Raymond goes to left tackle, and here comes Kalon Miller at left guard. And remember, he played right guard when he came in for Alani Noah against Nebraska. So now you move him from right guard to left guard, but he doesn't blink an eye. We come out there and we still have great pass protection. Didn't run the ball great, didn't have a ton of yards on the ground, but we kept them honest, and we had some explosive plays here and there. And Brian Jackson had a couple rushing touchdowns, and King Miller had some explosive plays on the ground. But to be able to perform the way that they have with all the injuries, really not even in this game, but all season long, and have guys play so many different positions and still be successful is just a testament not only to that group, but also to the coaching staff and the culture that Coach Hansen and Lincoln Riley have put on this offense and this football team. It's just, it really is impressive. And yeah, I might be biased, sure, but I'm not over exaggerating when I keep saying how impressive it is that this offensive line has still been able to have the production that they have had this year in the Big Ten, in this conference,
Yeah.
with all the injuries that they've had and the different combinations that they've had to use up front with the offensive line. One other guy too, I want to give a shout out to. Killen O'Connor was back in this game. It was
Yeah.
great to have him back out there. John Ray Reed went out with an injury last week, but I got to say too, John Ray Reed held it down while Killian O'Connor was out. But that's just, again, another credit to Coach Hansen, to the depth. John Ray Reed was a transfer portal player. Keelan O'Connor was a former walk-on, but these guys have been developed and learned pretty quickly how to come in and not blink an eye and make the most of their opportunities when their numbers called upon. So shout out to Reed and O'Connor. We're in a good position with whoever it is going forward, and whatever guys out there. But looking at the run game, I'll finish with that. Offensively, pass protection was great. Jayden Maiava did a good job of moving around. A couple sacks here and there. I thought maybe a little on the offensive line, a little bit on Jayden. I'm a former quarterback, so I'm going to be a little bit more harsh on the quarterback grading. I thought there were a couple times he could have thrown it away or got out. But either way, when it came to the run game, I love that Lincoln Riley didn't abandon the run game. That was the most important thing for me. Wasn't a huge game on the ground when it came down to the numbers. At least to USC standards the last couple of weeks. But for Coach Riley to continue to run the football, that forced Iowa to still have to cover both, and USC didn't become one dimensional on the offensive side of the ball. It would have been extremely impressive, or extremely difficult rather, for USC to win that game if Lincoln Riley didn't see a lot of big plays on the ground game early and go, all right, well, Jayden Maiava has thrown it 60 times this game. That's the only opportunity we got. Because sometimes as a play caller, not saying Coach Riley does this, but if something doesn't look great early on, it's easy for play callers to just feed the hot hand and say, all right, Maiava, go save us and get the ball to Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane for the entire game. But in that element, in those elements and that weather and everything that was going on against that opponent, for Lincoln Riley to still run the football and keep them honest, even when USC was down a couple scores in that game, was awesome to see. So a lot of credit to Coach Riley, but he wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for the offensive line up front and how productive they've been this year.
Looking big picture at this game, I know, Cody, in our preview episode, we were really looking forward to the matchup of offensive coordinator Lincoln Riley against defensive coordinator Phil Parker, both experienced vets, both really good at what they do. What did you see from that chess match?
Yeah, it was a great matchup between both of them. I mean, you got one of the best offensive minds in football going up against one of the most experienced and best defensive minds in football. Remind you, Phil Parker has been at Iowa since 1999 when Kirk Ferentz first got there as well, after he had been there prior. But when he took over as the head coach, the guy that was with him that entire time was Phil Parker, and he took over as a defensive coordinator in 2012. So that defense knows what they're doing. That they have a great core foundation. It's very difficult to find big plays against them. But USC was fortunate enough to get a couple in this game. And regardless of what Coach Riley did and found ways to get one-on-one matchups with Makai Lemon, or one-on-one matchups with Jacoby Lane, or a couple plays here and there, the tight ends. Did you notice in this game, Keely, that even though they were explosive plays, there weren't guys running wide open at all? They were tough,
Yeah. Yeah.
contested catches. There were guys falling back off into the play. That play that Makai caught, got hit by the safety and fell, and held my breath a little bit, landed kind of awkwardly on his shoulder and his neck. But
Oh,
that's
I know.
because their guys are everywhere. As soon as you think you have a big player over the middle, that safety rereads, retraces, turns around, and gets back to the middle of the field. Sometimes you think you have the over route, okay, they're in zone. I got the over route. They're passing it off. Well, before you can even get the ball to your hands, whoever they're passing it off to, the backside corner of the safety, goes downhill and he's already in the hip pocket of that receiver as well. It's so difficult, but that's what makes it even more impressive that Jayden Maiava was able to have those big time plays and not have turnovers in that game. And he and Lincoln Riley were on the same page. Give big credit though to Phil Parker and that defense. They didn't make it easy on USC all game long, but it's just one of those games that you go back and watch the film. As a football nerd, it's exciting to watch because it's two great minds going head to head in the Coliseum.
Now, I want to move us over to USC's defensive performance. Before we get there, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. And at Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Okay, Cody, talking about this USC defense, I think for the third consecutive game, it was a tale of two halves for the Trojans. What did you see there?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It was a slow start for this defense, but it was a great second half. It's the same story as last week against Northwestern. USC comes out and struggles to get a stop early on. In fact, Iowa went 3 touchdowns on their first 4 drives to start the game, and it just looked like this defense was going to have a long day. And I'm not going to lie, I was watching on the sideline a little nervous because they were doing things that we hadn't seen them do before, and throwing the football all over the field. And Gronowski looked comfortable, and they were sprinkling in some of the run game as well. And USC just couldn't figure out what Iowa wanted to do early on. And we were getting hit with some of those explosive plays, but they figured it out quickly. And that's what's most impressive to me is you're going to come out in games like that and you're going to get punched in the mouth against a team like Iowa. I don't care about you getting punched in the mouth. What I care about is once you figure out what's going on, how you respond and how you get back up and how you make adjustments in real time in that weather, in that situation, in that type of environment. And Danton Lynn and this staff was phenomenal with their adjustments in this game. But after the 3-minute and 30-second mark of the second quarter, Iowa's offense went 25 plays, 128 yards, and 0 points. In the second half on their possessions, they went punt, interception, which we spoke about it briefly, but that was a heck of a play by Marcellus Williams to retrace on the receiver, get his hand in there, force the tip ball. Jakeem Stewart, you may say it was a lucky break, but you know what that's called? That's called hustling to the football and being at the right place in the right time as a freshman. Got to give you credit, Keely. You picked him on the preview
I
show or on the
know.
pregame show as your player of the game. He didn't get any love
I know.
on
But
the vote, but
can I cut you
no,
off
go ahead.
too?
No, go ahead. Toot your
It's
horn a
not
little
even
bit.
no. It's not even about that. I can't even speak. But it's about the fact that I talked to him post game about that play, and he said I really felt like it was a reward for doing the small things because he said Coach Henney always gets on me on practice and says hustle after the ball. The play's not over just because the ball's downfield. He was like I was
Yeah.
trying to hustle and to be aggressive, and I felt like I was rewarded for that. So I just thought it was a really cool thing showing not only Jakeem's mindset as a true freshman, but the attention to detail that this defensive staff has.
Yeah, and to take coaching like that as a young guy,
Yeah.
and remember, he reclassified too. He should still be playing his senior year of football right now in high school, but he's over here making a game-changing interception in a quote unquote, playoff game in the Big Ten conference. But the fact that he could take that from Coach Henney, who he respects and all the players respect, and Coach Nua and the coaches on this staff, and then apply that to the field at a young age and then get rewarded for that hustle, it's a big time play. I promise you, you may think, oh, well, that was lucky and the ball got tipped and those things happen in football. Sure, you could argue that. But if he's not hustling on the rollout and he just gives up on the play, then he's not there to make the interception in the first place. So I'm glad you added that, Keely. That's great insight. But that was a game changing play that led to the go ahead touchdown for USC. That was a great call, too, by Danton Lynn on third down to get pressure on Gronowski as he rolled out. Marcellus Williams recognized that the Iowa player drifted back inside. He retraced well. Big time play. That's high level stuff. And that was awesome to see. But so punt, interception. And then after that, they go punt and turnover on downs to finish the game. That was a phenomenal job by this defense to face that type of adversity early on, to come out and I don't want to say struggle, but they didn't start fast like they expected themselves to do after making the corrections against Northwestern a week prior. But they came out, things weren't going their way early on. They didn't get upset. They didn't get down on themselves. They didn't let it escalate and keep getting worse and worse. Put their foot in the ground, got on the sideline, got some of those tablets, got it figured out, and went out there and made plays on the field and executed at a high level. So huge credit to Danton Lynn and his group, and also huge credit to the guys on the field making those plays and really forcing Iowa out of their game in the second half.
You know, it's funny, Cody. You always joke about whether or not a coaching staff listens to the preview pod or the recap pod. And I just thought it was so funny. It felt like Iowa's offense heard everything you said about them and what they were going to do. And we're like, let's prove Cody Kessler wrong specifically because
Right?
they got to the red zone. And I was like, okay, Cody said the quarterback loves to take the ball in. And then he throws. And I was just like, what is going on? It was just crazy.
And he had a lane to run right there too.
I
I'm like,
know.
oh no, he's gonna walk in, and then yeah, oh
I was like, and you're choosing to throw. I was just like,
yeah.
compared to what you had said, I was shocked by that. But I thought it was just interesting the flip we saw and what we thought Iowa was going to be and what they tried to be in that first couple series.
Yeah, and Danton Lynn thought the same thing as us, Keely, on our preview episode because he came out and did exactly what we thought he was going to do. Started the game with our big package, regardless of if Iowa was in 12 personnel or 11 personnel. And remember, 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends. 11 personnel is that speedy three wide receiver set with only one tight end and one running back. But they came out and regardless of what look they were in, Danton Lynn made it a point of emphasis for the majority of the game to say, hey, we're going to stay in a 4-3 look and we're going to stay even in a 5-2 look. 4-3 is four defensive linemen and three big linebackers. And those linebackers for the majority of the game were Desmond Stevens, Eric Gentry, and Jaden Walker. And then we went to a 5-2 look, which is where you take one of those linebackers out and bring in an extra defensive lineman to be physical up front against Iowa's offensive line. So obviously Iowa anticipated that and they came out and started throwing the football over the field. But with that type of team and something that we understood and had been kind of their issue the whole year is they struggled to sustain that success when it came to throwing the football. So in the second half, when USC started playing a little bit better in man-to-man and taking away some of those throwing lanes, they had to revert back to running the football. And that's where the 4-3 and the 5-2 defense that USC had worked perfectly. They eliminated those explosive plays. They did a good job of being physical at the point of attack. And look, this was a tough game. And was it perfect? No. Were there times that guys got moved around and got pushed out of their spot and got double teamed up to the second level? Sure. But Iowa is a physical football team. You have to give credit to that offensive line. Those are some big boys. I was down there on the field. That is a true Big Ten type offensive line. That there's a reason that they are as physical as they have been this season because of those guys up front. But I was so proud of how the front seven for USC battled in this football game. They showed toughness. They showed heart. They showed perseverance. They left everything that they had on the field. And I took a lot of pride on Saturday from the sidelines watching at field level at how physical and how tough those guys played. I really mean that. And, like I said, was it perfect? No. Did they give up some plays here and there? Yeah, that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I can win with that type of heart. I can win with that type of mindset. You said it perfectly. Jakeem Stewart taking coaching. Anthony Lucas playing some really good football. Kobe Pepe stepped up and had to play some interior defensive tackle this game. Some of those guys made some big time plays when their team needed them to. And we used a lot of guys and rotated a lot in this game. So it was great to see those guys step up for Dan Lynn, Coach Newell, and Coach Hinney in this USC defense. And I just mentioned them briefly, but I want to give them a little bit more of a shout out. When I went back on the tape and watched this defensive line, a guy that kept flashing over and over and over again was number 6 on the defensive side of the ball. Anthony Lucas played his tail off in this football game, had some great chase down tackles on the backside, some game saving tackles on the backside, especially on that final drive of the game, to where Gronowski was kind of reading him. But then as soon as he would give it, Anthony Lucas would show a ton of effort and chase the running back down on the backside to eliminate that big time play. That is winning effort right there. I can win with those guys on the defensive side of the ball. And also, I know it got taken away because of the penalties, but that was a huge sack fumble that potentially could have ended the game right there, too. That
Yeah.
just showed the effort and the determination that he had. So Anthony Lucas is a guy that I obviously want to give credit to and point out, but it was a group effort. And I was really proud of this USC defense after they settled into this football game, and specifically that front seven.
Now, we talked about the front seven, Cody, but looking at USC's secondary performance, I thought it was a scary situation in the sense that at one point you had both Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald out, 2 leaders in the back end. What did you see from guys who had to step up in that sense?
Yeah, what a great job by this unit. I mean, they've been a bright spot for this USC defense over the last couple of weeks, whether it's the starting group or some of the backups and rotational guys that had to come into this game. Another huge credit to this coaching staff. Both Trevon Reed and Doug Belk have these guys ready to go. But early on, they gave up some big time plays, but really settled into this game and made it tough on Gronowski all game long. Iowa had 132 yards passing on the day. And I know this wasn't a pass heavy team to begin with, but that was still below their average passing yards per game on the season. Gronowski came out, had 63 yards passing on that opening drive. And then for the rest of the game, he only had 69 yards passing. This secondary absolutely did their job. And like you mentioned, it was even more impressive because they lose their leader, Kamari Ramsey, and they lose their other leader back there at safety, Bishop Fitzgerald. They got hurt early in this game, and it really didn't even affect this group. Lynn did a good job of rotating a lot of guys in the back end, and they just stepped up and continued to make plays. I mean, Kennedy Urlacher, what a great day that he had. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but when it comes to physicality and coming downhill and not being afraid to stick his nose in there and make a big time hit, it looks like he shot out of a cannon from the secondary when he came down and made some of those hits. But, when your dad is who he is, you expect that to be the type of player that you are. So I feel good going forward, depending on what happens with Kamari and Bishop, having Kennedy Urlacher back there. Another guy that stepped up early in this game and made some big time plays, Alex Graham, who's a younger player. We got to see him play a little bit on Saturday. And then Braylon Conley, he actually got to start in this game ahead of DeCarlos Nicholson, which was interesting. I'm not sure, Keely, if you've heard any more news on that, why Braylon Conley started ahead of DeCarlos Nicholson, because it was Conley and Marcellus Williams who got the start, but we did see DeCarlos Nicholson throughout the game. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on going forward.
I believe Coach Riley was asked about it in the presser, and he said it was a coach's decision. So that's as far as we know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good. But again, that whether, and whatever that may be, sure, we'll keep an eye on that for the Oregon game. But that's good to get those guys those reps. Put Braylon Conley out there, put Alex Graham out there, put Kennedy Urlacher out there. Obviously, you don't want it to be because of an injury, but you don't know how your opportunity is going to come. And sometimes it's going to happen when you least expect it. And those guys stepped up and made some big plays. And really, it was the entire defense. When you play in these type of games, you need everybody. It's physical. It's tough. There's going to be injuries. It's raining. It's down after down, just having to give everything that you have. So when you have your defensive line, your linebackers, your secondary, guys are constantly rotating so you can keep fresh bodies out there. And this was really a group effort from this entire USC defense. Secondary played great. Front seven played great. Was it perfect? No. But the fact that they still stepped up and played the way they did against that physical team, and throughout the year, we talked about the inconsistencies, stopping the run. And this was a team that threatened USC with their run defense, but they rose to the occasion, made some big time plays. And I was very proud of Danton Lynn and this USC defense. That's great momentum going into next week against Oregon, because this is going to be the biggest test of the year for this USC defense. But I like where they're headed right now.
Well, I'm leaning into this brand that I apparently have now, which is special teams queen, as you once called it. But we talked about Eugene and the threat he is on special teams for Iowa. It seemed like USC took care of business in that sense, but what did you see, Cody?
Yeah, they did a great job. I was worried about Eugene in this game as well, and the coaching staff must have watched the preview episode again. They said, "Who's Keely's red dot player of the
Oh,
week?"
goodness,
And that is
no.
the returner Eugene. He was number 21. I'm sure you guys knew who he was in that game if you watched. I mentioned it on the offensive side of the ball. They like to get him the football on some of those end arounds, some of those swing routes. They want to get him in space, but where he makes his money is on kickoff and punt return. It's been a factor at times this year for USC, the Notre Dame game. I'm not trying to bring up some bad memories, but we get momentum going. We take the lead, and then Notre Dame takes a kickoff return to the house. I was worried this game about 21 on Iowa's football team, but USC did a great job of keeping him in check all game long. When you don't let a special teams player dictate the outcome of the game or impact the outcome of a game, then you did your job. And that's exactly what USC did in this one. Huge shout out to those guys. Stay tuned for next week, too, Keely. They got some good athletes on Oregon. I can't wait to hear who your next special team player of the week is.
It's not a
Next
guarantee.
red dot player on special. You better
It's not
you
a
can't
guarantee.
you got to go watch all 22 now. You better go find a special teams player. Everyone's going to be expecting it now.
Look, I'm gonna be like you. Can I get the all 22? That's what I want.
Yeah, right.
See?
I don't know who's got the hookups around here anymore. Someone help us out. Come on now.
Please, anyone. No,
Yeah.
but on that sense, Cody, take us out. Time to wrap up this recap episode.
Yeah, that was, Coach Riley said it best. That was a culture setter for USC football. That was a building block for this program. That is the standard now here at USC under Lincoln Riley. Those are going to be tough games, whether it's on the road, whether it's at home, but that has to be, the standard when it comes to expectations. You expect to win those football games, and you go out and you dominate on the field, and you make the most of those opportunities, and you put yourself in a position to be where you want to be at the end of the year. And that's exactly what this USC football team keeps doing week in and week out. I cannot wait for Saturday. We got college game day. We're on, I think it's CBS, right? Keely, 12:30 kickoff on CBS. So prime time slot. I know it's a little early on the West Coast, but get up. Maybe not a little, alcoholic beverage for your preview episode. Maybe a nice little cup of coffee or some tea or whatever it may be. Maybe sprinkle a little something in there. But either way,
Goodness,
let's
tailgate
get going.
show,
Trojan
10:30.
Tailgate Show is live at 10:30. However you tailgate and however you enjoy yourself before the game, just make
There you
sure you
go.
have on the Trojan Tailgate Show to go along with your pregame or your tailgate. But either way, I'm excited. Let's go. Let's go get a dub. This is a huge game. This is what you want. This is why you sign up to play football at USC, to go play in Autzen Stadium with the college football playoff on the line against Oregon. This is two West Coast teams that they have a lot to prove in this game. And I really believe USC is going to be ready. Please watch this preview episode too. We're going to have it on Wednesday. We're going to record it on Wednesday. It'll probably come out on Thursday, but I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about Oregon and how USC can win this football game. You don't want to miss it. But until then, fight on. Proud of this football team. We're right where we want to be with 2 left to go this season.
Alrighty, you heard the man. Meaningful football in November, always exciting to cover, and we'll get you covered here. Oh, you're grabbing something. Football, the helmet. Cody grabs the helmet.
I might have to throw this on for Wednesday's episode.
That means Cody's hype, if you don't know the man
I'm
already.
ready.
He is ready to preview this episode, so make sure you tune in. But that's going to wrap it up for our recap episode. That's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.